Hello, I'm Gregory Payne, the Chair of Communication Studies at Emerson College. Each September the 11th, we gather together at the bandstand on the historic Boston Common to inquire, to learn, and to reflect about a senseless tragedy that took 3 Emersonians from us in 2001. Each year, we gather with candles and we think about lives lost as well as pathways forward in terms of not only building bridges, but attempting to end violence through compassion and communication. This year, we face a particular challenge with COVID, but we've decided to have the resilience to continue this proud tradition. What I would like to do is to share some photos of past vigils, and then Vaughn Coleman, who lost his father and uncle, will give us a preview of what to expect for the 9/11 Vigil 2020.
Hi, my name is Vaughn Coleman, and I lost my father and my uncle on September 11th. 2 years ago, for the first time since then, I was completely alone on 9/11. I didn't have my mother, my sister, or any of my family. I was here at Emerson, but luckily I found a place in the Vigil, and ever since then, I felt like I've longed and I've worked to make it what it is now. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have been separated, yet we are still together, virtually. So in a moment, I'm going to send you over to Tita, who's been here since the beginning, and everyone else on the Zoom call before we get back to me and my family, who will be speaking at the bandstand. Thank you so much for coming. It means the world. I'll see you soon.
Hello, my name is Sonia Tita Popolo, and my mother, Sonia Mercedes Morales Popolo, perished on American Airlines Flight 11, the first hijacked plane to hit the Twin Towers on Tuesday, September 11, 2001. She was a mere 2 seats away from Mohammed Atta, the onboard leader of the terrorist attack. Her entire body was never found, but some remains were discovered 11 months after the disaster. My mother's wedding ring was recovered completely intact 11 months after the disaster, and this is the ring that was found. It was a miracle. We all have our own 911 moments. We are living in unprecedented times with the global COVID-19 pandemic, social unrest, and environmental catastrophes. Yet with resilience, we can reset and forge a new pathway forward. I wrote a beautiful book called Sonia's Ring, 11 Ways to Heal Your Heart. It is a story that will help you find the power to feel love, faith, hope, and perseverance for your own future in today's challenging world. It will provide encouragement that no matter where you are or what crisis or tragedy you may encounter, you can find resilience and strength to live with loving kindness and peace to heal your heart. Every year, our 911 Vigil has a theme. And this year, it is resilience. I would like to welcome two very special women. First, from New York City, Donna DeCruz, who will lead us through a moment of silence and a prayerful meditation. And then Sarah Assem from Madrid, Spain, will help us with setting the theme of this year's 9/11 Vigil, the power of resilience. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you, Sonia. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Well, tonight for me in Madrid. For the theme for this year's vigil, the power of resilience, I find it's very, very difficult to find silver lining to tragedy. It sometimes seems impossible. So I would like to share a poem from Rumi that actually, for me, outlines what the essence of resilience is. It goes like this. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and attend them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrow who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for new delight. What I feel Rumi wants to say is that no matter what befalls you, if you are mindful and observant, there is a lesson to be learned and personal and collective transformation that can take place. Anger can be a cue for resolving injustice. Grief can be insight for connection. And desire can become a pathway for freedom. So I'm very honored to be here today, and I kind of gave the few words just to be able to start this theme for this year ahead. Thank you, Sonia, for having me.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And I see now, Donna, you're with us.
Hi, Tita. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure, a strange pleasure to be here on such an auspicious day when we look out into the blue skies wherever we are, but certainly it reminds us of that day. And this is a day so beautifully said, and thank you for sharing one of our greatest, the beloved as we call Rumi, where he invites us to perhaps cleanse this guest house and be in a state of awareness and grace with the things that might be involving suffering and involving us questioning our collective wisdom. This is a time, I think, where we are going through many of the resonant feelings again. And so perhaps it's a time to take in the wisdom of the ancients and apply it to these moments that are hugely challenging. So with that in mind, it's a pleasure to begin our invocation. So let's begin by closing our eyes wherever we are in this world. So good morning, good evening, wherever you are. We have gathered today to honor our own resilience, indeed, and to honor this moment in our collective and in this consciousness where we choose to certainly acknowledge the lessons and the deep wisdom of our past, which invites us to become architects of design, around a new future together. And let us take this moment to acknowledge in this vigil those both present and those that have been liberated from their bodies. Let us acknowledge their spirits. And as you breathe in and out, acknowledge this at the place of your heart. Let us acknowledge the brothers and sisters, the cousins, the aunts, the uncles, the mothers, the fathers, the grandparents, let us acknowledge their light. May it shine perpetually. And let us take these lessons, be they filled with pain and suffering, and let us ask for the support that we might need to transform them personally and in our collective into great wisdom, into great opportunity for all. In the words of the ancient books in the Gita, we talk about this part of us that is connecting to all spirits, the part of us that is beyond ego, beyond time and space, the part of us that the waters may never wet, that the winds may never dry up, and that the fires may never burn. Let's take this seed of remembrance and allow it to impart its wisdom and its grace. Keeping your eyes softly closed, take a long, slow, deep breath in through the nose and exhale through the nose. I wish you namaste. The divine in me bows to the divine in each of you. Thank you for having me, Tita, and thank you for holding a beautiful space on this really magical moment and night.
Thank you. Thank you, Donna. That was so, so beautiful. Now I would like to welcome a dear friend who's been with us almost every year for the 9/1 Vigil, the former Senior Vice President of Cantor Fitzgerald, John Talanian from Martha's Vineyard. John, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Sonia, and welcome to everyone. Sarah, thank you for your share. Donna, that was beautiful. Really helped to give some perspective and manage some feelings that come up and relax the stress that is felt sometimes during these difficult days, no matter what tragedy you're thinking of. But welcome to everyone, President Pelton. Welcome to all those across the world, current students and faculty. My name is John Talanian, and for almost 25 years I worked at Cantor Fitzgerald in Boston. My firm had the top 4 floors of the first Trade Center building to get hit. As a result, 658 employees that had gone to work that day died. No one from any of those floors was able to make it out. We only had approximately 1,100 people that worked in the firm in that office. So you can imagine what devastation that created, not only to us as individuals, co-workers, friends, but also what happens to a firm that goes through such loss when their headquarters is destroyed. Personally, I probably knew around 200 of those people, and my very best friends in the world passed on that day as well. It was a very difficult time, as you can imagine. And, with the theme of resilience, and one of the definitions is the ability of something to spring back into shape and have elasticity. I didn't feel like I had resilience. Looking back, I don't feel like I had any. Sometimes today I feel like I may not have it. But what I've learned is resilience takes different forms. It doesn't always mean snapping back immediately, and that's okay. Resilience is just the process of going through something and then feeling the bottom and then coming back, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly. For me, one of the ways that I had dealt with losing so many of my friends and watching them die on live television and hearing some of them die through an intercom service that we have at our firm was very difficult. And some people deal with tragedy very differently sometimes. And for me, part of my story is that I needed to numb myself with drugs and alcohol for many years. But thankfully, in 2005, 2006, I went into recovery. And as I came out of my treatment program and back to Boston, I was looking for a positive way to deal with the emotions from 9/11. And one of those ways was sort of a on-purpose / accidental encounter with the Emerson Vigil that's been going on ever since 9/11, the longest running vigil in the country, in the world. And I thank God every day for this vigil having been there. In the beginning, I stood in the back. However, Sonia and Greg saw me and introduced themselves. And ever since, I've come each year in person, except for this year, of course, to talk about what happened and share the message. And, today, so many years later, so many people were not alive or don't remember what happened. And it's not so much about this tragedy as opposed to the others. This tragedy doesn't have to be more important or less important than any other tragedy in any of your lives. It's about how it makes us feel and how we move forward through these tragedies and having that resilience. And as was said earlier, how do you find silver linings? How do you find the positive in such tragedy? And one of the quotes that Barack Obama had said was, even the smallest act of service, the simplest act of kindness, is a way to honor those we lost, a way to reclaim that spirit of unity that followed 9/11. And what he meant by that spirit of unity is something that I don't believe we've seen since 9/11. The country was united because we were hurt by others. People bonded together, different political factions where people didn't focus on what side you were on. It was noticeable as you walked down the street, even in the big cities, people said hello to each other, perfect strangers. Car horns weren't honked. People were kind in a way I have not seen since. And sometimes tragedy can bring people together, but also sometimes when we don't know what to do or we don't know anyone, many of you probably know no one, and some of you were not born when this happened, but you think, what can I do? But even the simplest act, one act, in your mind to say, I do this in honor of the lives that were lost, is a positive thing to do. There's so much to be said regarding emotions and personal experiences, but I will leave it there. And I want to thank each and every one of you for coming on and logging into this Zoom session. While I may have said something of interest to you guys, each one of you has helped me just by your presence to make it through yet another difficult day of 9/11. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, John. I want to say it's a privilege and pleasure to have with us this evening President Lee Pelton, the visionary leader of Emerson College. We appreciate his participation year after year. Thank you, President Pelton, and welcome.
Thank you. You know, this evening we join the nation in a day of remembrance, our pledge that we will never forget what happened on September 11th, at what was then the dawning of a new century. The tragedy and heartbreak, as you have heard, visited on the innocent that day exceeded our capacity to comprehend the fullness of it. A series of 4 coordinated attacks on the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, and an aborted flight on a charred field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, left almost 3,000 people dead and another 6,000 injured. The emotionally injured and maimed surpassed both numbers combined and inflicted permanent damage on the American psyche. The overwhelming majority of the dead were civilians, including citizens of more than 70 countries. In other words, if we were to lay the victims out one by one, they would stretch to almost 10 times worth of days. And it is very fitting that Emerson College should have been the host of these decade-long vigils. For we are the humanists in the broadest and most ancient sense of the word. Through the arts, we discover and create coherence, integrity, and meaning in human actions and tragedy, large and small, good and evil. And through communication, we shape and illumine human culture and society. And through the liberal arts, we see the world through the lens of critical and disciplined thinking. Among the many who lost their lives on that fateful Tuesday morning, almost 2 decades ago, we must remember the children, almost 2,000 of whom lost a mother or father, 2 of whom are with us today. And what do we say to the children? What is our wish for them? What is our wish for them, even as we know that they are young adults? Mostly we hope for them that their tears of despair should so flood the earth that it makes of this old world a new world. We hope for them what Martin Luther King hoped for his generation, that unarmed truth and unconditioned love will have the final day in reality. I believe that amid today's mortar bursts and whining bullets, there is still hope for a brighter tomorrow. I have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies and education and culture for their minds and dignity and equality and freedom for their spirits. I believe that what self-centered men have torn down, other-centered people can build up. And so we take that hope, that resolve, that resilience with us, even during the last several months in which we have endured with resolve and hope, a global pandemic and the exposure of long-standing structural inequities in our nation. We hope that they and us together will one day be able to look through the confusion of the moment and listen to our conscience until our conscience becomes a trumpet call to all like-minded people to continue to create out of this tide of human despair, pain, and want, a sea of joy and light, a sea of hope and a sea of resolution. When we woke up the following day, almost 2 decades ago, heartbroken from a dream whose awfulness had no words to describe it, we had to confront a new reality, just as we are confronting a new reality today. Many of us must have felt that the comfort that we had always taken for granted in living in America, on American soil, had been shattered forever. We faced a new vulnerability, a new way of viewing not only our connection to the world, but our place in it. But make no mistake about it, we have an opportunity to leave a legacy then and now, because history requires it. Those who perish that day require it. Both history and they will judge us by our actions and by how we answered as a nation and as individuals the question, what will I do? We saw with spirits made heavy by human suffering the deep fissures of hate and cowardice and ignorance, like specters at dawn that haunt the world's conscience. And today, no doubt, the children, sisters, brothers, neighbors, fellow workers, friends, husbands, wives, partners, and lovers woke restless before the sun appeared in the east, brushing against some dim memory of their lost, seeking to reassemble disparate moments of lost lives into a whole, to beckon them a happy return to us, so that we know they are still there. They are still near us. They have left traces of themselves in those now blessed places where we once knew them, some noisy and crowded, but mostly places of repose, where the cool air is sweet and the soul may gather itself into a single pinpoint of light, where we feel whole and restored to ourselves. What a morning, fresh as if issued to children on a beach. What a lark, how fresh, how calm. Stiller than this, of course, the air was in the early morning, like a flap of a wave, the kiss of a wave, thought Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. And there they are. They are there, off in the distance. We see them there. And so in our longing for resolution and resilience, we know, we have to know that our weary hearts will be softened by life's tender mercies, and that it was enough after all. It is enough, And for that, we are truly grateful. Thank you. Now I'll turn it over to Professor Payne.
Hello, I'm Gregory Payne, Chair of Communication Studies at Emerson, and I'm here on the Boston Common to continue a commemoration of something we've been doing since 2001. When Emerson was struck by losing a professor, a student, as well as a dear friend, Tita's mother, Sonia, the entire campus tried to figure out what we could do. How can we make meaning of this terrible tragedy? So we found a common ground. We came to the Boston Common and we found the gazebo or the bandstand. And every year on 9/11, we've been meeting, we've been reflecting, we've been thinking, we've been learning about how to deal with such tragedies and to always try to learn from it and to be adaptive leaders and moving forward. When you think about 9/11 at Emerson, you think about Jane Simkin, a very talented graduate student in communication studies, who was on the same flight as Tita's mother. You think of Professor Myra Aronson, who had captivated many hearts and minds of her students in communication studies. And you think of Sonia, who had done so much philanthropy for the Emerson Majestic, as well as other aspects of making sure that Emerson was a leader in global communication. In addition to that, we also have generations that did not know the parents quite like Tita knew Sonia. And last year, I found a young man named Vaughn who came to me and he said, Dr. Payne, I lost my father and I lost my uncle on 9/11. And just like John Talanon, he said, I would like to be a part of this healing vigil. And he came last year with his grandparents from Connecticut who drove all the way up to see their grandson reflect and remember their son. And it was a very moving experience. I know the president and I, as well as others there, said, what a remarkable young man. We wanted, even in COVID, to pay respect and to be at the Boston Common. We have a very select group of people, socially distanced, etc. The Colemans live together, so they don't have the masks on. But what I'd like to do now is to turn it over to Vaughn, who's going to talk a little bit about what it's like for 9/11 and losing his father. We also have his mother, we have a cousin, and we have a friend of theirs who also lost her father on 9/11. Vaughn.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone who's come here tonight. People say never forget, and for me, that was never an option. I don't know a world that I can remember where 9/11 didn't happen, where I didn't lose my dad and I didn't lose my uncle. But I know that you can survive it. I know that I smile more days than I don't. And I know that there's good in the world and that good has come from it. And this is proof. I know we're living in a weird time, but this year especially, I wanted and I hoped that people would remember. And I'm glad to say that they are and that they care and that they're here. Because I was afraid that traditions could stop, that this year people might not come out and then they might forget, but we haven't. And we will never forget. We will never forget people like my father, like my uncle, and so many others that died that day. Because we can't. Truth is, now more than ever, people need to come together and remember this. Remember why we stand together and not why we stand apart sometimes. Because when it truly comes down to it, we are all here. And that's all that matters. That in times of grief and times of loss, that we remember what we have and what we've gained, as well as what we lost, who we lost. And so from my dad and my uncle watching down, I want to thank you and let you know that I love you. The same goes to everyone else who died that day. Thank you all. God bless America and God bless all of you.
Vaughn is always a hard act to follow. Like his father, Keith Coleman, he's a great speaker. To pick up on what Vaughn said about being thankful, I want to tell you that today is a day where I have a love-hate relationship. I hate today for obvious reasons, but I love today because today is a day when People show us that they haven't forgotten, that our loved ones are remembered. We hear from people all over the world, and it gives us hope, and it makes us feel like we are not alone, we are not isolated. So as much as I dread for weeks this day, the anniversaries, when it comes, I realize how much we need it. Whether it's a 10th or 15th or 20th, it doesn't matter. All of them in between are just as painful for us and just as rewarding when we go in unity. I'd also like to say thank you to my husband for choosing me. I'd like to say thank you for letting me meet my brother-in-law, Scott. I'd like to say thank you for our children. They are you. If ever there is a doubt in my mind, which there rarely is, that you are not here, I am well reminded that you are. They are you. They are brave. They are strong. They are fearless and unafraid to speak their minds. Thank you for giving me them. Again, you are the person I admire most in my entire life. We are wounded and heartbroken forever, but we are not defeated. You had a plan, and we're going to make it come true. We miss you forever.
The following is a passage that my aunt selected from my uncle's prayer card. Success: to laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and to endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world behind a little better, whether it be by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even if one life has breathed easier because you have lived, this is to have succeeded.
I think today is important to remember that hatred kills, whether it's through actions or with words, and now more than ever we need to spread words and acts of kindness. I would not be where I am today if I did not have this support system and the friends and family that I've gained from the tragedy that occurred today, years ago. Without them, I wouldn't be standing as tall as I am. I wouldn't be studying at a college where I am succeeding now. I wouldn't have any of this been given to me. So I think it's important to always check in on your neighbor, your friends and family. As September is hard for us, it's hard for everyone else. We also must remember that this month is Suicide Prevention Month, and compliment someone, hold open the door, anything. Reminder, hatred, whether it's active violence, terrorism, anything above, it's never the right call. It is never the right act, and spread love.
Thank you all. And last year and previous years, we've had a candle ceremony. Well, this year things are a little different, but yet the same. It's a strong tradition, and it's stronger than any barriers, any borders, any communication issues, any internet connection. We are going to place these in the middle in remembrance and take a moment of silence, and then pass a metaphorical candle on to those who would like to briefly share some thoughts of their own. I can, if you would like to speak, you can do so. Go on it. Or via Zoom. Select you.
As much as September 11th is a symbol of violence and hurt and loss and tragedy, it's also a symbol of love and unity and people coming together. And I think that as my brother said, and my cousin and my mom and Nicole all said, that's what's most important now. And I always believe that love and happiness will prevail over hurt and tragedy. And I urge all of you to engage in a random act of kindness, no matter what it may be. And I thank you all for being here tonight. And to everyone who spoke, thank you for your strength. It is very admirable. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you very much, Neva. Aishwarya?
Hi everyone, my name is Aishwarya Roy and I'm from Bangalore, India. I'm a master's communication student and I have a poem for you. So it goes like this. I asked for strength and God gave me difficulties to make me strong. I asked for wisdom and God gave me problems to solve. I asked for prosperity and God gave me brawn and brains to work. I asked for courage and God gave me dangers to overcome. I asked for patience and God placed me in situations where I was forced to wait. I asked for love and God gave me troubled people to help. I asked for favors and God gave me opportunities. I received nothing I wanted and I received everything I needed. My prayers have all been answered. Thank you, O Lord, for everything. We pray today for peace, peace in our streets, in our hearts, in our world, for an end to unrest, hatred, violence, deception, and riots, which aim not to cause any good for the human race. We pray for strength and hope with our hearts full of compassion and love, and wish that the ones who have departed from us always rest in peace. Amen. I would like my mom to tell, an excerpt from Sonia's ring. So she's there. It's an excerpt from Sonia's ring.
It's an excerpt from Sonia by Sonia T. Life. Life is so precious. Embrace it. Life could be better. Do not think it. Life is now. Enjoy it. Life is what happens when we are making other plans. Life is like a quick blow of a flame from a small match. Live it. For life is long and the time we spend here is so limited. Life is so good and so wonderful. So live it. Thank you, God. By Sonia Mercedes Morales, popular. From the Sonia's Ring. It is an excerpt. Thank you.
That was so beautiful that you read my mother's poem. Thank you very much. I'm very, very grateful for that. You're calling from India and waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to join us for our vigil. Thank you very, very much. It's very meaningful. Now we'd like to just invite anyone who would like to say some more words before we go on to share Shelby. Rassler is going to share some of her music. So if anyone would like to say, share any more a poem, words, reflection, please, this would be the time.
Tita, can you hear me? It's Donna.
Yes, Donna, we can hear you.
I just wanted to acknowledge you, and it's just I'm so moved and so touched by your grace and by the grace of everybody that's been here today, the family that just spoke. It is a reminder to all of us during some tough, tough days that we all face, that love has the power to conquer all. Grace has the power to crush ignorance. And when we breathe into the collective, let's be reminded of that. But I really wanted to just say for you, Sonia, thank you for honoring your mommy and for honoring everybody that is now angels watching down and doing what they're doing and inviting us to a place of grace and understanding and asking us to build bridges.
I'm so touched. Thank you, Donna.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Shelby, you're there? Shelby?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we'd like to welcome you.
Thank you so much.
And share what you're going to share with us. It's very special.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Hello, everyone. My name is Shelby. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. And thank you to everyone on this call for joining together to remember and honor those we lost on this tragic day. While everyone processes grief and heartache in different ways, my outlet has always been through music, and I'm honored to share a piece with you this evening. I worked with my sister Brielle to write this song and share the message of resilience during this difficult time we're all experiencing amidst a global pandemic. And the message of resilience and the need for rebuilding is exactly what we've all been speaking about this evening for tonight's theme. And I'm very honored to share the piece with you all. And thank you again for having me here. And my heart is with all of you and all of those that are grieving today around the world. I hope you enjoy it.
Alone in the dark, feeling so small. Alone, just a spark, feels like nothing at all.